The screen door slams behind me, and I wipe sweat from my brow with the back of my gardening glove. Harold's out by the barn, tinkering with that damned tractor again. The air smells like cut grass and impending rain. I'm halfway through pruning the tomato plants when I hear the gravel crunch. Lily's bus, I think, squinting at the dust cloud down the road. My stomach knots. I'd argued against this. She's your step-grandchild, I told Harold. Hardly family. But he'd looked at me with those faded blue eyes and said, "The girl needs us, Evie." She steps out in cut-off shorts and a crop top, her city-pale skin glowing against the rusted bus. 16, maybe 17. I can never keep track. Her mother, Harold's ex-stepdaughter, had called her troubled. Trouble, I think, watching Lily drag her suitcase through the dirt the first week. She mopes. Sleeps till noon. Leaves lipstick-stained cigarette butts in my geranium pots. Harold, though, he dotes. Brings her lemonade while she sunbathes by the pond, her legs all bare and golden. She's just a kid, he says when I snap about the cigarettes. A tea dinner. She laughs too loud at his jokes. Old farming anecdotes I've heard 1,000 times. Her foot brushes his under the table. I drop a plate. Clumsy me, the storm hits on a Thursday. Harold's restlessness has been brewing for days, lingering in doorways when Lily showers, humming old Sinatra songs. I volunteer to drive to town for groceries, desperate to escape the tension. The sky purples as I leave, rain pelts the windshield on the return trip. Mudslides block the main road. I take the back route, tires skidding. The house is dark when I arrive, save for the study's amber light. Odd. Harold never uses that room. I find my galoshes caked in fresh mud by the door, his boots missing. My pulse thrums as I climb the stairs. The study door is ajar. I see her first. Lily, perched on the edge of Harold's oak desk, her hair wild from the storm. His hands, those rough, veined hands, are splayed on either side of her hips. Her head tilts back, laughing at something he's whispered. A textbook lies open between them, pages fluttering in the fan's breeze. Just helping her with her studies, I'm sure then her fingernails, painted black, chipped, dig into his forearm as she leans closer. His wedding band glints as his thumb brushes the inside of her knee. Well, that's a bit much, the floorboard creaks. They freeze. Harold's face drains to ash. Lily smirks, slow and venomous, like she's been waiting for this. Oh, Lord, I don't sleep. Pack her suitcase myself while Harold sits at the kitchen table, staring at his untouched bourbon. Evie, he croaks once, but I slam the bedroom door. At dawn. I drive her to the station. She chews gum loudly, legs propped on my dashboard. "You're not even my real grandma," she says, popping a bubble. I say nothing. When the bus pulls away, I scrub the passenger seat with Lysol until my hands burn. Harold dies 6 years later. A stroke, sudden and silent. The grandkids, the real ones, help me sort his things. In the study, we find a shoebox tucked behind encyclopedias, dried wildflowers, a hair tie, a Polaroid of her on the porch swing. Mementos. Did I burn it all in the field that night? The smoke smells like guilt and July. Best forgotten now. When the neighbor boys catcall my young hospice nurse, I lock the medicine cabinet. And when the first summer storm rolls in, I pull Harold's old flannel from the donation pile and bury it deep in the trash. Some things are best left alone. Did I outlive the farmhouse? The new owners paint the shutters turquoise and rip out Harold's study. They don't ask about the lock marks on the doorframe. I don't offer. My condo smells like bleach and peppermints. The doctors say I'm sharp for 83, but my bones creak. The hospice nurse, Marisol, is patient. She doesn't wear cut-off shorts. Still, I count the Percocet every night, then the letter comes. "Ms. Carter, Lily passed last month. Overdose. She listed you as emergency contact. Per her wishes, enclosed are personal effects. The box is shoebox small." I leave it unopened on the kitchen table for 9 days. On the 10th day, a fierce storm rattles the windows. Unable to sleep, I finally succumb to curiosity. Inside the box, a tarnished locket, a motel keycard from Branson, Missouri, and a Polaroid of Harold, singed. And then, a letter you think you won? You just made him better at hiding. P.S. He cried your name, not mine. The words smell faintly like nicotine and vanilla. Marisol finds me at 3 a.m., shredding the letter. Bad dream, she asks. I snap. Put some goddamn socks on. She leaves early. The locket remains stubbornly closed. I boil water, scalding my thumb, and finally pry it open. Inside, a lock of honey blonde hair tied with fishing line. Whose? I drive to the old farmhouse. The Boston couple's toddler chases fireflies. The wife waves. I kneel by the pond and hurl the locket into the murky depths. Good riddance, back home. I dig out Harold's old flannel from the trash. Marisol calls to check on me. I let it ring when the fever overtakes me. I dream of Lily. You thought guilt was the worst of it, she whispers. Wait till you see what we kept for you. I wake surrounded by paramedics. Marisol is crying. Found her on the floor. She says, the gurney straps dig into my skin. I see the locket on the nightstand, dripping pond scum. It's not over, the locket follows me home. Marisol swears it's a replica. Hallucinations are common, she says. I don't tell her about the whispers. Evie, did I dream of the farmhouse, stripped to its bones? The pond swells, black and hungry. Their toddler sinks low, clutching Lily's locket. I wake choking. The next morning, I make Marisol drive me there. The hydrangeas are strangled by weeds. The Boston wife waves, her belly swelling. She offers lemonade. I vomit into her hydrangeas. Marisol quits. Her replacement arrives, Javier. He finds the locket. Pretty, he says, pocketing it. Javier wears a thin wedding band. He texts someone named Lena. One night, I catch him humming Fly Me to the Moon. Don't, I warned. He smiles. Don't what, abuelitas? The pond invades. Algae blooms in my sink. Tadpoles wriggle in my pill cup. Javier blames my kidneys. She's using him, I think. Teaching me that I stop sleeping. The locket whispers. He kept souvenirs. Under the floorboards, behind the encyclopedias, Javier brings me broth. Eat, he says. His wedding band clinks against the bowl. I see Lily's chipped black nails scraping Harold's forearm. Get out, I hiss. The broth ripples. Liar, did I dream of Lily? You thought guilt was the worst of it. She presses a Polaroid into my palm. Harold, shirtless in the barn. Wait till you see what we kept. I wake to Javier's hand on my wrist. Nightmares again? He asks, his eyes darting to the locket. It's dry now, bone white, dusted with ash. The final sunrise stains my walls blood orange. Javier sleeps in the armchair, the locket pulsing at his throat. I crawl to Harold's toolbox. The wrench feels right in my hand. He wakes when I'm halfway across the room. I swing. The wrench grazes his temple. The locket flies off its chain. Loca, he snarls. Paramedics come. Again. Javier's fist closes around the locket. Crazy vieja, he hisses. The pond laughs as the sirens swallow me whole. The sirens fade, but the pond's laughter follows me. They've put me in the cardiac wing. Javier visits. A band-aid on his temple. He places the locket on my bedside table. You're Zorro, he says that I turn my face to the wall. The locket hums. They discharge me to hospice. Days, not weeks, the doctor tells Javier. He leans close. You'll outlive the roaches, abuelita. The condo reeks of bleach and decay. Javier's moved in. I find the locket in my oatmeal, in the shower drain, dangling from the TV remote. Wise. I croak. Evie wipes the sweat from her brow with the back of her gardening glove. The screen door slams behind her, and Harold is out by the barn again, tinkering with that damned tractor. The air smells of cut grass and impending rain. Evie is halfway through pruning the tomato plants when she hears the crunch of gravel. Lily's bus, she thinks, squinting at the cloud of dust rising down the road. Her stomach clenches. She had argued against this. She's your step-grandchild, she had told Harold. Hardly family. But he had looked at her with those faded blue eyes of his and said, the girl needs us, Evie. And here she is. Stepping off the bus in cut-off shorts and a crop top, her city pallor glowing against the rusted metal. 16, maybe 17. Evie can never keep track. Her mother, Harold's ex-stepdaughter, had called her troubled. Trouble, Evie thinks, watching Lily drag her suitcase through the dirt. The first week, Lily mopes. Sleeps until noon. Leaves lipstick-stained cigarette butts in her geranium pots. Harold, though, he dotes. Brings her lemonade while she sunbathes by the pond, her legs all bare and golden. She's just a kid, he says when Evie snaps about the cigarettes. A tea dinner. She laughs too loudly at his jokes. Old farming anecdotes Evie has heard 1,000 times. Her foot brushes his under the table. Evie drops a plate. Clumsy her, the storm hits on a Thursday. Harold's restlessness has been brewing for days, lingering in doorways when Lily showers, humming old Sinatra songs. Evie volunteers to drive to town for groceries, desperate to escape the tension. The sky is turning purple as she leaves. Rain lashes the windshield on the return trip. Mudslides block the main road. She takes the back route, tires skidding. The house is dark when she arrives, save for the amber light in the study. Odd. Harold never uses that room. She finds her galoshes caked in fresh mud by the door, his boots missing. Her pulse quickens as she climbs the stairs. The study door is ajar. She sees her first. Lily, perched on the edge of Harold's oak desk, her hair wild from the storm. His hands, those rough, veined hands that fixed her porch swing, that held her through 2 miscarriages, are splayed on either side of her hips. Her head is tilted back, laughing at something he's whispered. A textbook lies open between them, pages fluttering in the fan's breeze. Tutoring, Evie tries to think, then her fingernails, painted black, chipped, dig into his forearm as she leans closer. His wedding band glints as his thumb brushes the inside of her knee. Well, that's a bit much, the floorboard creaks. They freeze. Harold's face drains to ash. Lily smirks, slow and venomous, like she's been waiting for this. Oh, Lord, Evie doesn't sleep. She packs Lily's suitcase herself while Harold sits at the kitchen table, staring at his untouched bourbon. Evie, he croaks once, but she slams the bedroom door. At dawn. She drives her to the station. She chews gum loudly, legs propped on the dashboard. You're not even my real grandma, she says, popping a bubble. Evie says nothing. When the bus pulls away, she scrubs the passenger seat with Lysol until her hands burn. Harold dies 6 years later, a stroke, sudden and silent. The grandkids, the real ones, help Evie sort his things. In the study, they find a shoebox tucked behind encyclopedias, dried wildflowers, a hair tie, a Polaroid of her on the porch swing. Mementos. Evie burns it all in the field that night. The smoke smells of guilt and July. Best forgotten now. When the neighbor boys catcall her young hospice nurse, she locks the medicine cabinet. And when the first summer storm rolls in, she pulls Harold's old flannel from the donation pile and buries it deep in the trash. Some things are best left alone. Evie outlives the farmhouse. The new owners, a young couple from Boston, paint the shutters turquoise and rip out Harold's study to make a wellness nook. They don't ask about the lock marks on the doorframe. She doesn't offer. Her condo smells of bleach and peppermints. The doctors say she's sharp for 83, but her bones creak. The hospice nurse, Marisol, is patient. She doesn't wear cut-off shorts. Still, she counts the Percocet every night. Then the letter comes. Ms. Carter, Lily passed last month. Overdose. She listed you as emergency contact. Per her wishes, enclosed are personal effects. The box is shoebox small. Evie leaves it unopened on the kitchen table for 9 days, next to the unripe bananas and Marisol's People magazine. On the 10th day of a restless waiting, a fierce storm rattles the windows of her small home, shaking loose memories long buried. She hears the unmistakable sound of raindrops pounding against the glass while Marisol's car struggles to start, refusing to budge from its spot. Eventually, she gives up and spends a night on Evie's couch, the tired lines on her face illuminated by the dim light in the living room. Evie catches snippets of her conversation with someone named Javier, her voice low and whispering in Spanish as laughter mingles with the rain, seeping through the thin walls. Unabated by the night's gloom, unable to sleep, Evie finally succumbs to the curiosity that's been gnawing at her. She reaches for the old box tucked away in the corner, its presence more heavy than she remembers. Inside the box lies a tarnished locket she does not recognize, its once bright surface now dull and uninviting. Next to it, she finds a motel keycard from Branson, Missouri, dating 2 years after she made the hardest decision to send her away, the weight of that choice still fresh in her mind. And then, there is a photo, a Polaroid of Harold caught mid-laugh, his face crinkling as he squints against the sun. The edges of the picture are singed, a chilling reminder of their past. Evie realizes with a pang that she must have kept the Polaroid, or perhaps it's merely a copy, a shadow of the moments they shared. Beneath the photo lies an envelope with Evie scrawled across it in that familiar slanted script she had seen on her bus ticket note. Her hands tremble as she reaches for it, as if the act of touching it might unleash the memories trapped within. You think you won? You just made him better at hiding. P.S. He cried your name, not mine. The words, scrawled in an ink that seems stained with a bitterness of its own, smell faintly like nicotine intertwined with vanilla, evoking a mix of warmth and heartbreak. Marisol finds her at 3 a.m., her presence startling her as she desperately shreds the letter into pieces, crumbling it into the sink. Bad dream? She asks softly, her voice still laced with sleep as she ties her robe snug around her. The sight of her painted toenails, coral and carefree, not black as she remembered, pulls Evie out of her turmoil, and without thinking, she snaps, "Put some goddamn socks on." Her tone is harsher than intended, but she can't help it. She's unraveling. She leaves early, the sound of her tires screeching against the asphalt echoing in Evie's ears. She doesn't even try to call after her, doesn't offer any apology, just stands there feeling the weight of the moment settle in the heavy quiet. The locket remains stubbornly closed, refusing to yield to her curiosity. In frustration, she boils water, scalding her thumb in the process as she wrestles with the stubborn thing, trying to pry it open. Finally, with a satisfying crack, it gives way, revealing a curled lock of honey blonde hair tied with a piece of fishing line. Is it Harold's? Is it hers? The question hangs in the air, heavy and unanswered. Evie finds herself driving to the old farmhouse, the familiar route sending echoes of memories swirling around her. When she arrives, she spots the Boston couple's toddler, a small figure chasing fireflies in the field where she once burned Lily's mementos. The wife waves at her with a smile, mistaking her presence for that of a neighbor, a small act of normalcy amid her chaos. She kneels by the pond, locket tightly clutched in her fist, and with a sudden surge of emotion, she hurls it into the murky depths. "Who's that, Mommy?" she hears the child's voice ask, innocent and curious. "Nobody, sweetie. Just an old woman," the mother responds, her answer laced with a false cheerfulness that doesn't reach her eyes. Once back home, Evie digs out Harold's old flannel shirt from the trash where it lay forgotten. The fabric is heavy with his sweat, his Old Spice mingling with the bittersweet scent of the lies that hung between them. She feels the familiar ache wash over her. Marisol calls to check on her, her concern evident in her voice. She lets it ring. Each when Evie falls asleep, she dreams of Lily. 17, she stands by her hospital bed, sneering. "Did you think guilt was the worst part?" she whispers. "Wait until you see what we kept for you." Evie wakes up to Javier's hand on her wrist. "Nightmares again?" he asks, but his eyes wander to the nightstand. There lies the locket, dry, bone-white, dusted with ash. The final sunrise stains her walls blood orange. Javier sleeps in the armchair, the locket pulsing at his throat like a second heartbeat. Evie crawls to Harold's toolbox, still rusted under the bed after all these years. The wrench feels right in her hand, cold, familiar. He wakes when she's halfway across the room. "Jesus." She swings. The wrench grazes his temple, and he staggers back, swearing in Spanish. The locket flies off its chain, skittering under the bed. "Loca," he snarls, clutching his head. Paramedics come. Again. Last thing Evie sees, Javier's fist closing around the locket as they wheel her out. "Crazy Vieja," he hisses to the wall. The pond laughs, low and wet, as the sirens swallow her whole. The sirens fade, but the pawn's laughter follows her into the hospital, a wet, gurgling sound that pools in her lungs. They've put her in the cardiac wing this time. Fluorescent lights buzz like flies over a carcass. Javier visits on the third day, a band-aid striping his temple. He places the locket on her bedside table. It's clean now, polished to a cruel shine. "Your tesoro," he says, smirking. Evie turns her face to the wall. The locket hums. They discharge her to hospice care. "Days, not weeks," the doctor tells Javier, who nods solemnly. But when the nurse leaves, he leans close, sandalwood and mint gum. "You'll outlive the roaches, abuelita." The condo reeks of bleach and decay. Javier's moved in, a cot in the living room, his dog-pattern scrubs draped over her good armchair. She finds the locket in her oatmeal, in the shower drain, once dangling from the TV remote. He watches her fish it out with a butter knife. "Why?" she croaks. He flicks the chain, making it swing. "La Chica del Lago told me to." Lake girl. Her four-stand rattles. That night, the storm returns. Rain slashes the windows as she digs through Harold's toolbox again. Not for the wrench, for the old Polaroid camera, buried beneath rat-chewed gloves. The film cartridge is expired, but she loads it anyway, Javier snoring when she creeps into the living room. The locket glows on his nightstand, casting greenish light on his throat. She snaps a photo. The flash cracks like bone. He doesn't wake. The developed picture shows two figures. Javier, slack-jawed in sleep, and a shadowy shape straddling his chest, honey blonde hair, cut off shorts. Her hand rests over his heart, fingers curled like roots. Evie burns the photo in the sink. The smoke coils into the shape of the farmhouse. Next morning, a girl arrives. 16, maybe, with Javier's hooked nose and Lily's smirk. "I'm Lena," she says, dropping a backpack by the door. "Dad's working a double." Her pills scatter as she fumbles the bottle. "Daughter?" She shrugs. "Foster system sucked. He found me last year." Her eyes land on the locket, now looped around Evie's bedpost. "Cool necklace. Don't touch it." She rolls her eyes, painting her nails black at Evie's kitchen table. Lena stays. She blasts music Harold would have hated, screamy stuff, full of static, and leaves pizza crusts in the toaster. But she also reads to her. To Kill a Mockingbird of all things. Her voice softens on the good parts. "Why'd you burn your husband's stuff?" she asks one afternoon, eyeing the ashtray full of photo fragments. "He wasn't worth keeping." She studies her, then snaps her gum. "Bullshit." The locket warms. At midnight. It levitates, hovering like a wasp at Lena's door. Evie shuffles after it, oxygen tank wheezing. The chain slips through the crack. Inside, Lena sleeps curled like a comma, one hand under her cheek. The locket settles on her sternum, glowing faintly. No. Evie lunges, tearing it off her. She wakes screaming. "The hell? Old lady?" Javier finds him on the floor, Evie clutching the locket, Lena clutching her pajama top. "She tried to strangle me." He doesn't speak, just carries Evie back to bed, his grip bruising. The locket throbs in her fist. Alive, Lena avoids her after that. She plays music louder, slams doors, but Evie catches her staring at the pawned photo taped to her mirror, the one of Harold, squinting in the sun. "He hot for a dead guy," she mutters.
"Don't. Why?"
"You jealous?" The monitor beeps wild. She smirks and walks out. The fever returns. Worse. Evie dreams of Lily and Lena wading into the pond, hand in hand. Their laughter sinks, becomes one voice. "You don't get to leave," they chant. "You don't get to forget." Javier shakes her awake. Bathroom.
"Now."
He half carries her, avoiding her eyes. The locket swings from his neck, nestled in his chest hair. "Take it off," she rasps. "Make me," he says, and for a heartbeat, it's Harold's voice. Lena catches her digging through Javier's duffel at 3 a.m. looking for this. She dangles a Ziploc bag, Harold's wedding band, a lock of gray hair, the motel keycard from Lily's box. "Where?" "Dad's. Work stuff." She smirks. "He's got a type, huh?" The room tilts. "Souvenirs." "He's not your dad." Evie snaps, her smile dies. And you're not my grandma. The storm crescendos the night Evie decides to end it. Javier's gone. Lena's at a friend's. She claws the locket from its hiding place, the flower jar, Harold's old trick, and limps to the balcony. Rain soaks her gown. The pond's miles away, but she swears she smells it, algae and secrets.
Evie?
Lily materializes in the downpour, translucent as the day she left. 17, smirking, water streaming through her. You lose, Evie wheezes. Raising the locket, she laughs. I'm not the one dying alone. Evie hurls it into the storm. It arcs, a green comet, and vanishes. They find her at dawn. Hypothermic and raving, Lena rides in the ambulance. I called 911, she tells the EMTs, avoiding Evie's gaze. Her nails are bare, chipped black polish gone. Javier meets them at the hospital. He's livid, but when Lena glares, he backs off. You're both nuts, he mutters. The locket isn't in his shirt that night. As machines sing her dirge, Lena slips in. The pond's gone, she whispers.
Drained.
They found bones, a kid's, maybe. News vans are everywhere. Evie clutches her wrist. Yours? Older. Like decades. Her eyes glint. They're saying rituals. The heart monitor spikes. You knew, she accuses. Evie closes her eyes. Sees Harold at the pond's edge, tossing something small and gold into the water. A locket? A ring? No, she lies. She leaves. The locket waits under her pillow, silt in its hinge. The locket is the last thing Evie feels, cold and persistent, clutched tightly in her hand while machines wail around her, their sounds urgent yet oddly melodic. Lena and Javier are gone, leaving only the night nurse, her pen clicking in quiet rhythm. Evie tightens her grip on the locket, its hinge gritty with pond silt, a reminder of murky memories. She succumbs to morphine's embrace, slipping into a heavy dream state. The farmhouse appears intact, filled with warmth. Harold's boots creak on the porch, a sound of better days. Lily laughs by the pond, her joy clear and sharp. But as Evie approaches, the scene fractures like porcelain. The pond is drained, revealing mud and disquieting bones, a small skeleton curled up, its wrist bound by a rusted chain from a locket, not Lily's. Something older, betrayal runs deep, a voice hisses, surrounding her like vines. Harold stands behind her, but as she turns, his face shifts into Javier's, then Lena's, finally her own. What do you mean? She asks, but the dream tosses her back to harsh reality. Morning light cuts through the curtains, cold and uninviting. The locket is gone, but her hand reeks of algae. A nurse enters, saying, Your granddaughter's here. Lena slouches in a chair, coffee cooling between her fingers. Red-rimmed eyes reveal sleepless nights. They identified the bones, she states flatly. A kid from the 40s. The locket belonged to her. She tosses a worn newspaper clipping onto Evie's bed. The headline reads, Local girl, 12, disappears near Carter Farm, with a gap-toothed girl smiling, her locket shining. It's your family's land, Lena says, staring hard at Evie. You knew. The heart monitor falters, its beeping reflecting the tension. Evie, whispers the ventilator. Echoing despair, he drowned her, Evie admits, her facade cracking. My father. He saw her stealing eggs and held her under, until she stopped struggling. Vivid memories flood back. How he washed his hands afterward, whistling casually. Don't tell your mother, he had warned, his eyes dark. Lena goes pale, horror replacing anger. And you just buried it? We buried her. Evie corrects, at midnight. The locket returns, coiled around her four-pole like a serpent. It vibrates with the drowned girl's voice, urging her. Determined, Evie unhooks the monitors, her legs wobbling, steadied by the locket's chill. The empty halls are silent as she follows glowing exit signs to the parking lot, rain soaking her gown. The taxi driver offers no questions, only an indifferent glance. At the pond, police tape flutters, creating an eerie scene with floodlights illuminating the area. The drained pit lays bare with forensic tents nearby. Ignoring the chaos, Evie approaches the water's edge, the locket vibrating in her pocket with urgency. Hey, you can't be here, a cop yells, but his voice fades as she feels the mud tugging at her feet. Suddenly, she's 12 again, watching her father kneel in the muck, the girl's body floating eerily, her locket reflecting moonlight. Help me weight her down, he grunts. Evie fills her pockets with stones, sobbing as the girl's empty eyes seem to accuse her. Father grips her chin, forcing her gaze. You're Carter. We don't weep, he commands. Now the pond cradles her like a mother. The skeleton lies close, hand outstretched. The locket leaps from Evie's grip, snapping around her bones. Finish it, she whispers, her voice echoing in Evie's mind. I end desperation. Evie digs a stone from the mud, slipping as she grips it. Footsteps approach. Lena, stop, she screams, panic evident. But Evie doesn't hesitate. She slams the rock down, shattering the locket. The girl's bones dissolve into silt, and the pond roars back to life. Reclaiming what was lost, Lena yanks her up the bank as water rushes in. You crazy bitch, she exclaims, collapsing on the grass. They lie soaked. The pond appears deceptively innocent under the moonlight. Wise. Lena gasps. Confused, Evie touches her cheek, warmth reminding her of Harold. Secrets drown you slowly, she replies. Dawn finds them at the bus station, the chilly air biting Evie's skin. Lena smells of pond scum and stale coffee, reminders of chaos. Where's Javier? Evie asks. Gone. Left the locket and took off, she replies, kicking a pebble. Guess I'm back in the system. The locket shards weigh heavily in Evie's pocket. Sell them. Start fresh, she urges, her voice steady. Why help me? Lena asks, doubt flickering. Because you're not her. Evie explains. The hospice bed feels lighter now, burdens lifted. The machine's whisper no longer screams. Lena's coffee cup, abandoned on the sill, is rimmed with coral lipstick, vibrant and not black. The laughter of the pond is gone, a distant echo, but perhaps